Okay, so obviously the last video we recapped AEW's Wednesday Night Dynamite. The Wednesday Night War continues with NXT's episode for this week. Obviously NXT's had a bit of a 2-week jump on this, but still, this is the first time a full episode is on USA. They're not jumping over to the WWE Network for the next hour. It was live. They said we're doing limited commercial interruptions, and there won't be any commercials for the first half hour. And I will say this, they did not do a good job in presentation as AEW did. Their split-screen commercial bits were just dead spots, really. I mean, I sat through a couple of them, and it was mainly just rest, and even then, and even when I fast-forwarded, I did it on the lowest setting, so you could see it go very kind of, like I said, very slowly. So I kept it on slowest setting, so I could still try to pay enough attention, but all you could see was basically, it was like rest hold, or, oh, here's someone kind of getting, put to the outside, so we have a 10 count going. It didn't really work as well. Anyway, they started off the match with a doozy, because we started off with the NXT Championship match, Adam Cole, baby, versus Matt Riddle, bro. Basically, Riddle got another street fight with Killian Dane. He won that. Adam Cole tried to attack him. Riddle put him in a Fujiwara armbar, and after that, Cole was selling a wrist injury. But, I think it's kayfabe in that case, but that made Riddle the number one contender. They came out. Riddle did some chain wrestling. He did a waistlock takedown. He tried to go for his Fujiwara armbar again. Riddle hit a rolling gut wrench suplex. Cole came back with a jumping kick, knocked Riddle out of the ring. Cole hit the Ushigoroshi neck breaker, Riddle came back and hit an exploder suplex. He hit a V-trigger and a fisherman's bomb. Cole fought out of a fireman's carry and hit a backstabber. It was actually really cool because he went, Riddle had Cole up for the fireman's carry. Cole fights out of it and pulls him right back into the backstabber. The backstabber. Riddle hit a jumping kick. Cole hit a jumping enziguri. Cole kicked Riddle off of the ring apron. Cole tried to do the Panama Sunrise to the outside of the ring, but Riddle blocked it. Eventually, Cole did hit a Panama Sunrise. Riddle came back, though, and hit a go to sleep. He tried to do his, I forget what it's called. It's basically a moonsault. It's kind of like a corkscrew moonsault. But Cole rolled out of the way. He hit a super kick and then another Panama Sunrise. Riddle fought out of that, locked on the Bro Mission, and then the Fujiwara armbar, but Cole got to the ropes. Cole hit Riddle with the cast, which allowed for the last shot and the 3 count and the victory. Overall, really good match. Again, good way to really start things off. Crowd was definitely into it. One of the funnier bits is they did one maneuver, and I can't remember what it was, but it led to a big holy bleep chant. And if you're familiar with the NXT crowd, you're familiar with Izzy. That was the little girl who was the Bayley fan. She's a teenager now, actually, but she's got a presence on social media, and she's done some indie shows. Sorry. But anyway, as the crowd was chanting the holy shit, you could actually see her father was over holding her ears to block the swearing. Unfortunately, the positive vibes that match gave me, this moment was kind of spoiled, was kind of killed, because as that happened, suddenly Finn Balor's music hits. And Finn Balor comes down to the ring, the crowd is going wild, and Balor grabs the mic and he says, "I'm now back in NXT and I'm coming after that championship." And I'm like, wow, that's a disappointment. And I know there are people going wild for this on social media, and I'm sorry, this is a downgrade. This isn't good. Balor is a big guy. It's still a pretty recognizable face on the main roster. He's been Universal Champion, he's been Intercontinental Champion, and now he's going back to developmental in NXT. NXT's been great, and I love NXT, but I'm one of those, if you're on the main roster and you've won championships, you should be staying on the main roster. I mean, yeah, Drew McIntyre is different because he had been away for a long time. it doesn't, yeah, so, something like Breezango, who never really seemed to get a fair shake on the main roster, that's different. This case, I'm sorry, it leaves a real sour taste in my mouth. To me, like I said, it feels like a downgrade. It feels like a demotion. Not to mention, weren't we supposed to be building towards the Fiend versus the Demon? And now that's not going to happen. So, yeah, you've made this whole thing just feel really pointless and sad. It's not good news. Not to mention, something else happened at the end of the show, which we'll get to, that adds even further confusion. After that, Velveteen Dream came out to challenge Roderick Strong to a match for the North American Championship, and he had to throw in the requirement that, Strong couldn't win without the assistance of the Undisputed Era, which is probably true. So that basically the Undisputed Era would have to stay in the back no matter what. At that point, they began hyping what I thought was going to be the next match, which is the Cruiserweight Championship match between Drew Gulak and Lio Rush. But then they said, oh no, wait, that's next week. So yeah, now I'm a little even further upset. Instead, our second match, though, is Io Shirai versus Mia Yim. Yim kind of dominated early on. She hit a lot of strikes. She had a baseball slide drop kick. She had a few chops on the outside. At this point, they went into the split screen and you could start to see where the problem is. This is where they started doing a lot of the rest holds and stuff like that. Shirai used her feet. At one point, there was a cool spot where Yim was in the corner and Shirai basically pinned her back with both her feet. Shirai hit a flapjack and followed with a knee drop. Yim came back with a big belly-to-belly overhead suplex. Shirai hit the tiger feint kick and then followed with a missile drop kick. Yim came back in a cold blue, followed that with a suicide dive, but then Shirai hit a superplex and then hit the moonsault for the 3 count and the victory. Decent enough match, not terrible. Definitely keeps both women in high contention for the NXT Women's Championship. So everything went pretty well there. After that, we had a brief Tegan Knox vignette talking about her injury and her rehab. This again leads into another thing too, because we also had a vignette with Imperium and Kushida doing that feud, and again, so what exactly is the deal with NXT UK now? Because their champion is now on the regular NXT, Imperium's now on NXT, and now it looks like Tegan Knox, who is being groomed for a possible run with the Women's Championship, is on the regular NXT. Toni Storm is apparently on there. So, yeah, what's going on with NXT UK? Is that going to be its own separate thing, or are you going to merge that back in as well? I mean, 205 Live has apparently gotten, straightened out a little bit. They'll still do Cruiserweight stuff on NXT, but they're also going to do it as... It's still going to be on the 205 Live. Will still be on the network, and I believe it's airing before SmackDown, or is it after SmackDown on Fridays now? So yeah, again, this is just kind of getting really confusing. Okay, our next match is Johnny Gargano versus Shane Thorn. Thorn actually held his own pretty much in this. I mean, they set up a feud, but at least, again, it didn't lead to a big squash match right off the bat. Thorn actually was really competitive in this. He opened up by hitting a suplex and then going for another kick. And Gargano hit a roll-through into a possible... fought out of a roll-through attempt and tried out a crucifix pin. Thorn came back. This was during the break. This is one of the few times I actually did something kind of unique. Basically, Thorn pulled Gargano over to the ring post and then basically did like a chin lock, but used the post as extra leverage for that. It was actually a pretty cool-looking spot. Thorn hit a back suplex on the ring apron. Gargano came back and he hit a Listo kick. Thorn countered a suicide dive with an uppercut, but then Gargano went and hit another suicide dive anyway. Gargano hit a slingshot spear. Thorn hit a power bomb. Gargano dodged a kick and hit a reverse rana. He then hit a super kick for the 3 count and the victory. Like I said, at least a decent little competitive enough match. It wasn't a total squash, so it looks like they might be able to do some things with Shane Thorn. Shane Thorn was part of TM61 or TMDK, if you knew him on the indies, but then his partner, whose name I can't remember, his wife had a baby, and he wanted to stay closer to Australia and take more dates there instead. So he got released from the company, and Thorn is basically got left behind. So at least they're using him and possibly in an entertaining way. So again, building something for the future is very nice. And that leads us into our next match, which is the NXT Women's Championship match, Shayna Baszler versus Candice LeRae. Early on, LeRae did a lot of kicks and stuff like that. She hit a jumping enziguri. She hit, sorry, what did I say? But knocked Baszler out of the ring, let's just say that. LeRae hit a couple suicide dives. She hit a sitting blockbuster and followed that up with the jawbreaker. LeRae hit, tried to lock on an octopus hold. This was during the split screen bit, sorry. Baszler came back, knocked LeRae off the top rope, and then set up a spot in the ring steps where she threw Candice into the ring steps, and then she took LeRae's arm and put it in the little handhold thing to pick up the ring steps. So she put it into there and then stomped on the elbow back into it, and that allowed Baszler to come back. But then LeRae hit a flatliner on the apron, followed that up with 2 suicide dives. Baszler came back and hit a gut wrench superplex. Baszler locked on the Karafuna clutch, but LeRae fought out of that, tried to get into a pinning competition. She tried to lock on a Karafuna clutch of her own. LeRae hit a swinging neck breaker off the top rope. Candice LeRae went for a moonsault, but Baszler dodged it and locked on the Karafuna clutch, and eventually Candice LeRae tapped out. Really good, solid match. Nice to see, again, Baszler winning without interference from Duke and Shafir. Definitely makes it look even more dominant. That being said, again, this is another contender that's gone down. I mean, I'm all for trying to push Io Shirai as a top heel, but are you going to eventually turn Shayna Baszler babyface, or what's going on there? I mean, I'd rather see Baszler lose to a babyface and then the belt transition over to Io Shirai. But overall, like I said, a decent enough match, but a little disappointing at the ending, but not terribly. Okay, our next match is Pete Dunne versus Danny Birch, and this was basically just a squash match. I mean, Birch did get in some good licks. It's funny because both men wrestle kind of the same style, so both men were doing like the breaking of the fingers and stuff like that. Probably Birch's high point of the match is he fought out of a suplex attempt and hit a headbutt to the back of Dunne's head, but eventually Dunne hit a sit-down powerbomb. Birch did come back, he had a rope hang DDT, but then Dunne came back and hit the bitter end for the 3 count of the victory. Didn't really do much except further Pete Dunne's next feud, which is apparently Damian Priest, because after the match, the lights went out and Damian Priest attacked Dunne in the ring and stood triumphantly, and then pointed to the video screen where it said Damian Priest on it, and it's like, yeah, everyone knows who you are, so I don't know why they did that. And that leads us into our main event for the evening, the NXT Tag Team Championship match, the Undisputed Era of Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly against the Street Profits. Ford and Dawkins actually came out in it's, I believe, is it Scarlet and Gold? Florida State University colors. So I guess that plays well in Orlando. I think that's actually more of a Florida territory, but okay. Dawkins and O'Reilly opened things up. The Undisputed Era basically tried to do several cheap shots, but Montez Ford entered the ring and kind of broke them up before it could happen. Dawkins hit an axe handle off the second rope. Ford tagged in and he countered an O'Reilly roll through into a small package. At this point, though, the Undisputed Era did manage to get some cheap shots in and isolated Ford for much of the match. Every time Ford would try to get to Dawkins, they would break it up somehow. They would either cut the ring off. At one point, it looked like Ford was going to get to Dawkins after hitting an Uranagi, but Bobby Fish pulled Dawkins off the ring rope, or off the ring apron. Eventually, though, Dawkins did get the hot tag. He hit a series of splashes. He speared Bobby Fish. Eventually, Dawkins hit Kyle O'Reilly with an exploder in the ring. At one point, though, Bobby Fish managed to chop block Dawkins and then enabled O'Reilly to lock on the knee bar. Ford tried to break it up, but Fish got in and locked on a guillotine choke. But Ford managed to power through and threw Bobby Fish into Kyle O'Reilly and broke up that submission attempt. Ford hit a plancha over the ring post onto all the men on the outside. He started to get back in the ring, but again, Roderick Strong interfered in this case, and then enabled Fish and O'Reilly to hit the total elimination for the 3 count of the victory. Again, really good match. Again, I know they want to continue the idea of the Undisputed Era having all the gold, so again, a little predictable. I knew they probably weren't going to put the championships back on the Street Profits, especially since the Street Profits are appearing on Raw all the time now, so again, I don't know where anything's going on right now. However, then as Adam Cole came out to celebrate with his buddies in the Undisputed Era, suddenly he stops at the top of the ring and this other music starts to hit up, and it's Tommaso Ciampa's music. So Tommaso Ciampa is back, and now he's also gunning after Adam Cole's NXT Championship. So again, this just leads to further confusion. It's one thing to have a decent amount of guys competing for the championship. I mean, you have Ciampa, Gargano, Riddle, and Finn Balor, which I had already said I'm really disappointed in. But you could also, the way this is being done, it's more like there's too much going on to really follow through with anything, and I guess they're probably going to lead to the War Games match where the Undisputed Era is going to be taking on that consortium, and maybe Velveteen Dream is thrown into it. Personally, I'd like to see Velveteen Dream getting into the NXT title picture, but again, if you want to put Ciampa in there now for now, because he never really lost his championship. Sorry. Okay, I'm good. He never really lost his championship. He could get a spot through, and so he could get a chance to get it back. That's fine for now. Overall, though, this episode of NXT was just kind of a disappointment. Again, the matches were decent enough, but some of them were just a little lacking. I understand you need some squash matches to fill time, but again, I like the idea of the limited commercial interruptions, but if you're going to do that, at least put something in there to make me focus my attention. Like I said, it's split-screen commercials, but I'm still fast-forwarding through them because all it is a bunch of rest holds. The ad breaks in the latter half of the thing just really killed a lot of the momentum of a lot of the matches. So, yeah, it was kind of disappointing. I am going to give this week's NXT a C. So, yeah, like I said, just really disappointing. Okay, so next review after next video after this is going to be the review for Joker. Get used to seeing me in this shirt because it'll be the 3rd video in a row with that. Cat's here, sorry. Anyway, after that, the next video is going to be the random trade review on Lex Luthor, Man of Steel. I've already shut the video parts for that. I just need to record the audio and get the scans. Then after that, it's going to be the Hell in a Cell review. The pay-per-view they've only announced 3 matches for, and it's only 4 days away, so I mean, I guess now with SmackDown being on Fridays, that's going to play more into being a big go-home show than Raw ever would. Hopefully they'll add some matches to that. I don't know. I'm not doing a SmackDown premiere recap. I will, however, be covering the draft. That will be over 2 nights. And I'll talk about the next movie reviews in the Joker review. See you all next time. Are you tired of me constantly talking only about WWE and NXT? Want to see me expand my wrestling coverage? Check out my Patreon at Sleepy Time for Cat Productions. Also, remember, if you like the video, give it a like, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.